Right, so we started the Indian that the Savas Yesh Me'ayin Holiday Sfiras HaMalchus was the Indian from the Ha'ora Bilvad, and that the Yesh Mishabe is Tachlis HaRichuk through what we saw was the Hisnasis of Sfiras HaMalchus. And we saw that Hisnasis was the Indian of Havdalah, and withdraw from the Mishabe in a way that there was a Helem Vehester HaBoirei Mi'anivro. In other words, that the Mahabe was completely Behester from the Mishabe, and that led to a union of Ha'ora Bilvad. However, we went on to say, and we said that was the union that according to Das Rabbi Eliezer, that the Kof Hei Be'elom Nivro Ha'elom, that he said that the union of Brias Ha'elom is Mepchinas Koi. We saw that the word Koi is an approximation. The word Koi in Lashon Kodesh means like that, or something similar to. And so we saw that in Ruchnius that was the union of Demus, Dimyain, Lavad, and that's what we call the union of Demus Lavad. We call that in Ha'ora de Ha'ora. Ve'ilo Ha'inian, which is Gilu Ha'etzem, even though it's only a Ha'ora, but it's a Gilu of the Etzem, then that's another a much higher, higher union. It's not a union of Ha'ora de Ha'ora, and therefore Kof Hei Be'el is indicatory that the Etzem Brio of the world, the Etzem coming into being of all the elements for that matter, they were in an oven of Ha'ora and Dimyain Bilvad. But in other places, that's Mavur, where we find that the Abishah said that that in reference to the Brias HaOdam, the Nas HaOdam B'Tzalmeinu and Kidmu Seinu. So sometimes it's Mavur, but that's also two inyonim, that the inyan of Ha'ora Atzmius is Tzalmeinu. The inyan of Kidmu Seinu, that's a inyan of Demus Bilvad, but that's the Ha'ora in the Etzem Misavas of the Yesh. However, we saw that the inyan of Rosh Hashanah, Inyone was Lahamshi B'chinas Mahus Va'atzmus Ha'er. In other words, to be Mamshi Davke Ha'ora Atzmius, in the highest madriga, that it would be the mahus and the etzem of the Erein Say, Begam b'chinas ha'atzma shelamayla mibchinas ha'ever gilui, and even more than that, even more than a ha'ora atzmius mimeno, but mamish atzmusa is bora, that he's the mo'oyer, the mo'oyer of all the oyeres, being as he is, mamish atzmus ein say. So we saw that Dafki from that Madrege is the emes kavona in all the inyonim of Rosh Hashanah to be mamshich and megala lamata the atzmus, which is completely lamaila me'or v'gilui. And we saw that was the musag brought in Sifra HaKabbalah and Mavur and Siddur in a lot of places, binyan hamalchus. So we build up the union of malchus. In other words, we are mamshir, what you might call the pnimius v'atzmius of malchus, and that's the whole tachlis of the Aveda of Rosh Hashanah. And now he began a whole view of that, and that's where we were holding, and we saw that the Adua, the Shoyrash HaMalchus, Hula Maila Mikor HaSfira. HaKamesh Kosev B'Eit Chayim, the Shoyrash HaMalchus, Hum Yireisha Delo Yisya Yado. From the head, which is not known, or which is not to be known. Or it's brought down in the Kisvei Arizal, and also it's Merumas in the Zohar Kodesh, that Lamaila Mi'ah Sfiras, in the Indian of Keser, the Kiru, three what are called Roshi HaRoshim, they're called in the Orim Mekubalim, the heads of the heads. In other words, at the head of Atzilas, as you might call it, is Pnimis HaChochma, the highest Madrega. In Atzilas is Chochma, and that's a union from Rosh, Legabi Atzilas. But then there's Roshei HaRoshim, heads of heads, There are three madrigas which are called Roshi Roshim, and they are one higher than the other, but one of them is the union of Arich, or how Arich is a shirish to the spheres. Then there's Pnimius Arich, but that's the union from Chochmas Timor. That's the Rosh, as it were, of Arich, that's called Chochmas Timor. And then the third one is Reisha Delo Yisya Da. The third one is the head, but it's a head which is not revealed and, as it were, not known. So how do we know about it? That's a good question. We only know about it because we've been revealed that there is such a madrega of a Sokoso. The Tatlis is to be Megala even that level and even higher than that, the truth is. So Reisha de Lo Yada. Now it's put down in Chassidus that expression Lo Yada, it's not known, includes in itself two nuances or inyonim. And that is that Lo Yada, it's not known to the Mekablim or to the spheres of Arich and eventually of Atzilus. In other words, all the spheres shall amatim mimeno. Lo Yada, it's not to be known. And then there's another pirush in the word Lo Yada, that it doesn't know of itself either. In other words, it's such a high madrega and so kol and mechuber to the atzmas that it doesn't even really know itself either. It doesn't feel itself to be an entity. In other words, it's so batil that it's not aware of itself. In other words, that all the madregas that we can talk about to a certain extent, they have a certain knowledge of their own self. Like the Rambam said, when they get to the Malachim, the Rambam says that they know that they're there, or they got some sense, there's some union of them being aware of their own state. I suppose that's the right of all beings, all entities in some way, to know that they're actually there, in some ways to be aware of their own being. So it's put down in the Kutatera and other places that the pure Bereisha de Lo Yada is that it's not even known to itself. It doesn't even really know that it's there. And that's the Pshat Lo Yada, Lo Yada, Glabid and Mekabim, Lo Yada, Filu Legabi Atzmai. In other words, it's so high and so batil that it doesn't really know that it's there. It doesn't have any entity of its own. Klal is completely and utterly batil in Elikus. In other words, that's what we call the Bechina Taktoina Sheba Ma'atzil. It's really the lower point of the Eibishter himself. It's not any point separate from it. It's really Kilu, that's him himself. And that's why it doesn't know itself, because it's really just kolol and batil completely in him. And that's the union of the Reisha de Lo Yada. And Ramela said that the Shoresh Apnimi and the Shoresh Atzmi of Malchus is really in this Madrega of Reisha de Lo Yada. The other Tes Spheres in Real Ma'atzilus, in other words, from Chochmah down to Yesod, and including, of course, they are Shorsham Mipchinas Arich. They're all from the level they're from the first Rosh, as it were. They're from the Madregas Rosh Stam, the first Rosh. And maybe to a certain extent, Chochmah of Atzilus is from the second Rosh, which is Chochmah Stimor. But that's also Chochmah, how it's got a certain shaykhs to Arich. Avu Shorosh HaMalchus, hu mebchinas Reisha de Lo Yada, b'chinas Pnimius HaKeser, u b'shorosh HaRishain hu mushreshes b'chinas Pnimis v'atzmas ein tzei. And he said in the Shorosh HaRishain, because Keser and these Roshim are after all somehow or another related to the union of how Elikus relates to Seder Ishtaushus has Ezeshu Hascholav and has seen the smoking to the union of Gilui HaElement and Gilui HaIshtaushus of Shorosh HaRishain in Atzmus means how it is in the Eibishter in Biatzmusay, or how the oil is Miskale Mamish Petech Atzmusay in such a way that it's not really a mokeh yet or anything. Is in there we say it's Mamish Petech Pnimius vi Atzmius of the Eivishtar. That's the Shorosh of Spirits HaMalchus, which means that Spheres HaMalchus is different than all the other spheres, and whenever it's Mizgale, it's really drawing on a very high koya, which is incomparably higher than the other spheres, which means that they only relate somewhat to Malchus, but they don't really in any way give rise to Malchus, because Malchus got a completely sure gavoya v'kilo mudal b'fnei Atzmei. וזה עניין המלך הקודש האמרים בראש השונה, דהיינו שהמלכס אלה בבחינת קדושת העצמס, דהין צי, כמו שהוא קודש הוא מודל מצד עצמי. In other words, on Rosh Hashanah, everything goes back, everything returns to its Sheresh HaAmiti and its Sheresh HaRishon, so everything goes back to HaMelech HaKodesh, and that's why in the Aseret Yemei Tshuva we have to say HaMelech HaKodesh, not Hakel HaKodesh, but HaMelech HaKodesh. Well, that's indicatory of the Sheresh of Malchus Davke, because the word Kel is indicatory of Spheres HaChesed, or Beklal Spheres HaChesed is mashpia to the other spheres. Ve'ilu HaMelech HaKodesh is indicatory of the Inyan HaMalchus Davke, how it's like to move forward in Shulchan Aruch. Why do we say HaMelech HaKodesh? Because Bo'eis and Hayomim we are stressing him, we're kilo osuk in the Sheresh of the Eibishter's kingship Davke, the Inyan for Malchus, more than it is b'meshech kol Hashana. If you don't mind not playing with that b'shas, we're on. Yisrael, Lefi Zeh kommt es, that we need to understand. The intelligent reader would be Messiah. Up to now, we've been saying that the whole inyan of Malchus Achoponim, even Agilui, is Ha'ora Bilvad, and its whole way of being Mahava the Yesh, of Mahava the Elamus, is Ha'ora Bilvad. And here all of a sudden you come along and you say, oh yeah, the Sheresh of Malchus is higher than all the other spheres, and the Sheresh of Malchus is in Reishet Le'esyad, in Pnimis V'Atzmius, Ein Seif, in Mamish, in the Atzmus, als L'mayla Afilu Mimoke Ha'oyer V'Moke Ha'Gilui. I think that's like two opposite ends of the stick. I mean, on the one hand you're saying that it's only for men nitvi ha'ora deha, and on the other hand you're saying that the Sheresh of Malchus is higher in comparable in all the other spheres, even from Reisha the Loyet, Pnimius HaKesav, Pnimius V'Atzmus Ein Sei. So I mean, how does that come together? What's it the biur? But all of a sudden we're holding hara to hara. Next thing he says, Pnimius Sheresh of Malchus, Pnimius V'Atzmus. Yeah, but Bereisha the Loyet Yada and a whole Riches HaBiur, that's a whole idea from Aveda from Rosh Hashanah to be Mamshich HaKel HaMelech HaKodesh. We have to say that the mention for Malchus is meant to be Ha'ora Deha, Ha'ora. So I don't know if that bothered anybody, particularly if anybody lost any sleep over being a bit mesupik. Aber auch upon him, it's a Torah HaDeirish Biur. So the Indian is a say, it's brought down and says that Amelech, if we take the Moshel, how it is, the Indian from Amelech over a Medina, Amelech, if you don't mind, I don't like people sitting like that, if you don't mind. Okay? It's, when you sit in Ashir, it's, we're always a little bit tired. It's been demanding times. It's Slichas, Metalah Gutinyonim, and other Sachen. You said everybody's a little bit tired of everything has a lavush. Like we see, even Malchus has a lavush. But the Indian friend, a king, if we take him, how is it that the king becomes an elevated being over the Medina in such a way that everything is totally in him, and he becomes like a moishel v'shelet al kol prat u'prat. Yeah, Medina, until we see that, but the Bar Melech Shilton, he just says one word, and that's, yeah, everything becomes bottle and everything tutzach. And as they say in Yiddish, it's tutzach hopet, according to what the Melech said. And we see that he does everything, even from ha'oram mi'atzmusay bilvad. He just gives out a word and the whole Medina turns upside down. He doesn't have to appear and he's atzmus all over. No, it functions even from einachanami. But Gilu, he only gives off a ha'ora di ha'ora from himself. So why is it takir that another being, let's say, Chaim Yaakov, who lives down the street, he'll also put himself up in put a gold ring around his attic at the top of his house, and he'll also call himself a king, and he'll also start to send out messages. What's the next thing was happening with them? The king will send around some of his soldiers and had he got to take care of him in a not particularly dignified way if he's not careful. And I'll feel al derech harogil. Even without a king, somebody all of a sudden starts making himself a ganze macher and a ganze. So the Indian is, why is it taki that the Melech is able, that his ha'ora bilvad just takes over, and even just a luminescence from him has this amazing and powerful effect on the whole people and all the Medina, because b'em islamita, he is an elevated being, and he's ein arech legabe kol shari ha'anashim b'Medina, and that's the immediate sin in the Malchus, how it is al pi Torah and al pi pnimis ha'inyanim, that a Melech is ein arech be'etzem atzmusei, and he's misnasei, he exalts himself, makes himself higher from everybody, not because he's just making a careful, well-planned spiel with everybody, but he is be'emes menusa be'etzem atzmusei, and therefore he's ein arech marumam, and that's why it is that his ha'ora is able to have these unbelievable powers. And therefore we see that when Shmuel Hanavi was sent to anoint Shaul, well, he was the first king. But albeit his malchus didn't last, and he wasn't meant to be the mocker of the kings that would eventually be the emissary leaders of the Jewish people. But he was the first king. So it's written that Shmuel came and he saw a person that he was mishich moy ulamayla gavoya mikol ha. I state in Pasik that Shaul was had a cut from his shoulder blade, and upwards he was taller than, he was like bigger, you noticed him, he stuck out, than everybody in the whole area and in the whole Medina. So Shmuel saw that and he said, Hine, this is the Bechir Hashem, this is the message I've been looking for, Shmuel Hanavi. He realized that this was the mensch, and then later Shmuel Hanavi had nevuas that he had to anoint Davke Shaul. So Chassidus says Masbir, what does it mean the shechem? When you say somebody's shoulder blade, well, that's like the chitzonius of the lathe. In other words, that's like the chitzonius, the back aspect of the midas, which means that even in the chitzonius and the chitzonius, shibah chitzonius, even of his midas, not of his moichet and not of his l'maylam, of even the chitzonius, shibah chitzonius, of his midas, he was gavoya mikol ha. He was elevated and completely shalei be'erech, which means that in his koiches ha'maylim yoter, and in his koiches ha'atzmi, he was just completely and utterly eina reich legabi kol ha'am. And therefore, that's why it is that as a mensch becomes a melech, he becomes a melech mitzad a mitius inyona, he is be'emes a melech, he's be'emes a gavoy ben amen. But we find that when you get to Rebbeim also the same thing, that the emissary Rebbe is the Bechina from Malchit, but it's well on the Sipur, I don't know if it's well known, but upon him there is a Sipur. We have to hope that the Eibush will tell him that there will be a bit of chayas, a bit of bread in these in Yonim, that the Rebbe Ashab had a brother. He had an older brother, the Rebbe Mishmal Siyadin. He had a brother, the Razor. You've heard of him, the Rebbe Salman Aron. He was the older brother, the Razor. And so, the Seder at the hierarchy of the family, then he should have been the Rebbe. So, after these talks, the Rebbe Maharash, he and the Rebbe Rashab used to say Maimorim, in turns. Sometimes the Razor said a Maimon, sometimes, and even the Maimorim from the Razor are available. You can actually get them if you try hard enough. You can get them. Is on Afu Pikain, at a certain point, he said clearly to the Chassidim and to the Rebbe Rashab, he said, you should know that I'm not going to be, I'm not makabel on myself, Klar. I'm not going to be the Rebbe. And so they realized that the only one that's going to be the Rebbe was the Rebbe Rashab. And that also took a few extra years till the Rebbe Rashab actually was makabel on himself. So in one of the in Samach Zion, it wasn't Tofrei Samach Zion, already a long time afterwards, the Razor was in Lubavitch when the Rebbe came out and sat with the yeshiva. That's a famous time, 3 years in a row, Samach Vav, Samach Zion, Samach Ches, when the Rebbe Rashab came out and he ate the Sudas Moshiach, what later on became called the Sudas Moshiach, with the Bochrim in Tomchei Tmimim. And he said each time, Amayim Chassidus, I think it was in Samach Zion, when the Rebbe said this Maimon on Achron Shal Pesach, the Razor was there. The Razor also sat there. And after the Rebbe Rashab already left, the Razor was walking back and forth the whole time. He's going back and forth. And he was fatifted in the Maimon that his father had said. He was turning it over. So all of a sudden some Chassidim, walked up to him and they wanted to ask him maybe he could tell them some of his, his Giluim and the Maimon, maybe they could discuss it with him, something. So he turned to them and he said, is geboren geworden a Rebbe, gewachsen a Rebbe, is a Rebbe. Wow. That's what he said. He said he was born a Rebbe, he grew up a Rebbe, and he is a Rebbe. That's what he said about his problem. In other words, the Emes Rebbe is something different. He's completely different. You can't say, oh yes, I'm the next in line. I'm the heir. I'm the heir of the throne. I'm the Rebbe. It's a law like that. And it was the same with the Rebbe. With the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. It's one that the Rashag was older. He was the older Eidim and everything, and there was some very Choshev people felt that he should be the Rebbe. And in the end, the Rebbe became the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the Rebbe, and the Rashab was a very Choshev person, but he wasn't the Rebbe. He was a very great man, and everything, but he wasn't the Rebbe. And the same thing with a Melech. You can't just become a Melech. A Melech is be'etzem atzmusei, a mensch, but he's meant to be a Melech because he is ein aroich legabi everybody else. Be'emes, he's menusa, and that's why his word can go down all through, and he just says a word and it goes out, and some and the whole, everybody turns up, and, as they say in Yiddish, alles stehen auf dem Kopf. Everybody turns upside down because the Melech gave out a ha'orim yad from Ruth, because be'etzem he's ein aroich and ein aroich and ein aroich hecha for alle men. And the same, that's what the Razor meant. Geboren geworden, gewachsen, und is be'etzem atzmus. He's the Rebbe. Amen. Das ist die Inyan, what we see here, when I get to Malchus Lamayla, that Kaviyochel, that in order that power of the Eibishter to give forth, and the Alter Rebbe says in Igeres HaKodesh, that power of the Eibishter to produce Yesh Mi, Ayin Mamish, to produce a Yesh, Kaviyochel, what appears to be, as it were, Chutz Mimenu, and it becomes the Dova HaNivdal. But that's the Indian of Malchus Lamayla. That's the difference. Down here, the king just relates to his subjects in a way of Ein Aroich. But the subjects, he didn't create them. They're there, but he's Ein Aroich Hecha Fazei. But in Lamayla, the Eivishter not only Ein Aroich Modal, but he actually creates, he actually makes the Etzem Indian of the Yesh. That his nasus of the Eibishter, like the Eilamas, is also just like the king doesn't mitzad the immediate how do you call it, nasus atzmiyas of the Eibishter, and then is able to go down through him ma'inif and aora de aora, which will eventually not only just conduct the whole world, but even make them and bring them about. In other words, that the concept of his amitius asherish, of his atzmus, is just incomparably beyond all of our inyanim, and all we can do is draw a moshel from the meaning of our Avamelech in the way we said. Well, that's what the Rebbe means. In other words, that there's like two, almost as you might say, contrary inyonim are functioning here in the inyan of the Melech. That mitzad echad is the inyan from Isnasus Amitius ad Mamish ha'etzem, and the etzem kamuvan is moved over Tachlis Avdola. Dafki, because of that, it's possible for ha'ora, the ora to go down, and in that ha'ora gufa should be revealed all the pomp of the Amitius Atzmas, even though it's only a ha'ora, the ha'ora menon, it has the ability to bring about yesh mi'ayin eskola or ilames amamela lan higo or someone to conduct him with the ganze pomp of Malchus. And so the big chiddush is, the unbelievable chiddush here is that that's what the Rebbe is teaching us here on this whole mind. That's the whole basis, this whole ganze piece here. The mitzad echad, there's two inyonim in the creation. The mitzad echad, kof hei ba'el. It's unbelievable. That Rabbi Eliezer was megala to the world that kof hei ba'el, the Eibush brought about the world. That's the actual hisabas, but the ha'ora kof hei. Yeah, that's the koi, the ha'ora, that there should be this unbelievable koyak nonetheless to be mahava yesh mi'ayin, and also to bring about the anhoga of kol ha'olam was cool. Oh, he said that's because mitzad hasheni, the whole inyan from that malchus is moved over Tachlis Avdola, and it's bereisha the loyis yada bis pnimis v'atzma sein seif, and the two of them are like two extremities in the whole concept of malchus, and they feed one to the other, and they're mashlim one the other. So you might say, good, well, all we ever get is the inyan from koi. So the Rebbe said, no, that's only the beginning. But the ultimate purpose is that there should be a mensch, and the ultimate purpose is that the man's mentioned there should be hidden, and the ultimate purpose is that hidden should be mamshit. The pnimis v'atzmiyas, the reisha the lois yada, bis atzmas ain't safe. They should be mamshit that lamata pegolui, and that should be there pegilui in the etzem world, not just the ha'ora, not just the koi. No, in the etzem world we should see gilu atzmas and mamish. In other words, that the Eibush doesn't want that it should remain a dichotomy. He doesn't want there should always be these two extremities. Now, the ultimate rotzen is that it should all become one inyan, and that should be dafki through the Avodas HaAdam, and that should be misgala al yedei the koyach ha'adam dafki. And that should be dafki the shleimus of the whole bria. And the far Adam Harishan, he's the shleimus, and we wait the whole inyan for Rosh Hashanah can't be shayach until the Adam came along, because the whole inyan for an ad koi up to here, it's just a inyan from koi. It's not the amiti, it's a kavona. It's not the amiti, it's a inyan. Im Amerikunta is lofise, also ich steht da, kacha katupo. Hier steht kol oid, also nicht da gile atzmas. When's going to be gile atzmas? Mashiach comes. Good for you, my son. When's going to be the Gila Atzma? When Mashiach had come. Imagine that the whole world is waiting every Rosh Hashanah as a leper Zion. So we have to say that it don't work and nothing happens. But it doesn't occur. It doesn't happen. Kolei that Mashiach is not here. That whole inyan is only there. Kilo in our even from Eishu Helem or Eishu Koyach, aber nicht mamish bepoyach. Therefore, it's a pelle. The whole inyan for Rosh Hashanah is Gilui Pnimis HaMalchus, B'toich Chitzonis HaMalchus, and that's the inyan for Melech HaMashiach. And if I'm Melech HaMashiach, Mashiach has to be and is he's a Melech. And therefore he's Meruma. Yeah, Mikola Shari B'nei Odom, and the ganze Arichas. Yeah, we saw in some of the Shurim Klolim, we pointed out a couple of weeks ago, that he'll be the inyan from the Hirichoi B'Yiras Abaye, that he'll be Sholet Al Kol B'nei Odom Alitei the inyan from Reya for Oid Inyonim so Oid Lomayla Mizeh Ad Shiyotzeli Lisboinam B'Zeh. What's all these amazing things nowadays with computers and Mars and Geschäft, and people press buttons and they can talk to people on the other side of the world and schmuzen away, and people, they talk with these, internet phones, or even they just look at the internet and they talk to one another all over the world, and they go, you do it, where you do it? What's gehört geworden? What do you need all that for? But you can't live comfortably like that. I mean, I don't even have a telephone. I live comfortably. I'd like to improve certain inyonim in my life. Aber auch upon him like that. Wo ist davon das alles haben? Das will man. Wo ist es in der Kude besehen? Elamai, man darf es haben, because when Moshiach is going to come, he's going to say one word and it's going to just run around all over the ganze Bria, and people are going to, how is he going to reach all these people? He's going to make some sort of a huge meeting of the ganze mankind on the equator and the Sahara Desert. Where's he going to meet all these people? That the Eivish is preparing the way, and the Eivish macht das. Es wird das auch mit Metzias. There's Mami's Ria. You can cook in the famous Meshuggah on the screen, and you can and you can see all these in the when you see it, Mami's Berea. And that's why the Eivish is making all these things, because the Moshiach is going to talk in a split second to thousands of people. And a state in the Rambam that Avraham Avinu, look in the Hilchos Tainas. You see, the Rambam says, Avraham Avinu diber im Masoras alofei anoshim. He spoke to tens of thousands of people, Avraham Avinu. So Avraham Avinu, he worked hard to do that. He took a room gegangen, he built tents all over the place, and he called people in, and he let him have it, and he gave it to them, and he went all around the place. Hollow for Nosea, Avraham Avinu, he traveled all around the place. But he reached tens of thousands of people. This shows you what you can achieve even without computers. It was only a certain area of the globe. It wasn't the ganze globe, with the ganze Red Indians, with the Aborigines, with the weiß mit was. Man tun wir über die ganze Welt. Nicht gewähnt jemand, das haben wir in Koya. Aber Moshe is going to take all these guys. Moshe is going to take on the guns. I feel the Schwarz is what they want to be presidents, but Kaisem said, no, Moshe won't know how to deal with it. He'll say, listen here, who's the real president around here, my child? Never, Rahman in Islam. He thinks he's a president. That's what the Yidden sagen him. Never. Anyway, whatever. It shouldn't be. But those are the Nakuda that we need all these inyonim, because that's going to be the pnimius hamalach. That's going to be lamata. Imam it's a perfect gesagt. Imam said the Rebbe validei avoda de Rosh Hashanah mamshichim bechinas hamalchus mim koiro horishain. You bring it from its very first shoyler. Hainu, how do you call it? Mireisha de lois yodav od lamayla me. The tkiyas. The Indian of the Tkiyas or Rosh Hashanah is to reach even L'mayla Reisha de Lois Yada. V'hainu, how is that? How can that possibly be? Alidei Kabbalah Seo Malchu Shemayim de Rosh Hashanah. Shumi Prinas Pnimius Holeiv. Mion Nefesh. Akamesh Kosov Locho Omar Libi Bakshu Fonai. Yeah, that Locho. What Rashi titles that means that the Eivishter is talking to the person, or rather the person is talking to the Eivishter, and he's saying B'shlichuscha. That my heart, L'cho, means in your shlichus. My heart is saying to me, Bakshu Fonai. Now you can teach that also in two ways. Either Bakshu Fonai is the teach that the Eivishter said through his shliach, and made the shliach, which is your heart, say to you, look for my pnimis, meaning the pnimis of the Eivishter. But how are you going to do that? How are you going to find the pnimis of the Eivishter? That you bakshu fonai is that you use your pnimis to look for your own pnimis. Yeah, bakshu fonai. Yeah, pnimis ha aleiv davke. Amami, where? Alidei says ponecha vaya abba. Kaish, yeah, the Neshama answers back to the Eivishter, and he says, I will ask for your panecha, I will ask for your pnimius. Yeah. In other words, the answer is that the Yid says, yeah, I'm going to be mevakesh your pnimius, meaning that I'm going to be poil, that Pnimis Ein Sof should be Nimshach Lamata. It's a beautiful tide. It's brought in Sforim, it's brought down in Sifrei HaPoiskim, and also in certain Sforim, and I think it's even mentioned in the words of the Rebbeim, that the whole reason we say that the whole capital Kov Zayin, all during Elul and Tishrei, is only be'ikr for that pasuk. L'chol malivi bakshu fanes panecha vaya vakesh. That's the ikr kavona. That pasuk is killed the ikr. Why we say the whole capital? They stay. Amamir nimtzer of hizeh that ukamayma imru l'fanai malchias, that you should say in front of me malchis kadesh tamlichuneya aleichem, in order to bring me down as your melech upon you. Imru lefonai davka. Lefonai meaning my pnimius. Lahamshi b'chinas amalchus mibchinas pnimius be'atmas ein seif. Liyesh meir b'chinas gilui ein seif mamish bibchinas malchus. In other words, that the shoyrosh of malchus, which is the gilui of the ein seif mamish, well, that should be meir into malchus. There'll be the Gilui of the Pnimis HaMalchus also Lamata B'Teich HaOlam. So I thought the Shaila, what is this in the? It just looks rather sort of quickly stated, but what's the pitch line? The Rebbe says that Alidei Kabbalah Soyo, and particularly this Pnimis Alev, all through that it's all going to happen in the Kabbalah Soyo Malchus Shemayim. In other words, it's an unbelievable task. You've got to bring down the Shurish Pnimi Ve'atzmi of Malchus to be Meir into Malchus Chitzenis and Malchus Lamata. How do you do that? How do you get up to Atzma say? Ain't say. So in the Shlichus from the Abish, my heart says to me, Bakshu, I look for your Pnimiyah, and ain't no Chanami. What is that? How does that achieve the whole Indian of being Mamshich, Reisha, the Luciad of Od, Lamaylam is there? So the answer is in those words, what the Rebbe says, that the Indian is Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shah, Mayim the Rosh Hashanah, Shuhu Mipinas Pnimis Alev. So what's the Indian from Kabbalah's oil, Malchus Shemayim? What does it touch? If you touch out in the simple sense, what is the Indian of Kabbalah's oil? What does it mean in Kabbalah's oil, Malchus Shemayim? And like we pointed out, I don't remember when it was, in the Shir Klal, I think it was, that every day there's like a whole Avodah which is Bedimion to Rosh Hashanah in Kriyas Shema. Because Kriyas Shema is Kabbalah Sel, Malchus Shemayim, as it's Mavur in the Mishnah, in Masechta Brachos. And it's Mavur in the Hemshech Rosh Hashanah, Toshin Tes, from the Frierdiker Rebbe, where he's Maglo there, that every day there's a Kilo Bechina from Kabbalah Sel. He wasn't doing it from Kabbalah Sel, what other time? So we see that one of the inyonim, which is neged etzem mahus ha'odom, is the idea of taking on himself how do you call it, all, meaning a yoke, and taking on himself the idea of a commitment, and particularly taking on himself the idea of a commitment which is an emerson commitment, and taking on himself a commitment which might mamish reach into his what the Polish is called the pupik, right into the pnimis of the intestines, into the kishkis, to use another the popular expression in Yiddish. In other words, that he does, that a mensch can take on himself a von a all, das eipig der Teva von a Menschen. It's eipig to the Teva, and by certain behemoths that they manage to do it, even by say it's a big, adequate, a sure, to a certain extent they seem to know that that's ultimately their purpose. A man should take himself and give himself away, but call prat b'chayo, take on himself an unbelievable commitment. Das is heipach teva ha'odom. The heipach teva ha'enosh legam. Absolute heipach ha'teva. That a man should be makabel oyo atma. When he sleeps or when he wakes up, the atmos of the Avish is before him, and he says, "Oh, Kaval, I can't be what I really am. I'm a mensch, but I have to be I have to be something completely and utterly devoted to Atzmos.
Isn't it the same for like bittul, being bittul?
Yeah. But Kabbalah says a little bit more than being bittul. You see, in bittul there are also madrigas. But in Chanam, but Klaus is the concept of bittul. But it's a little bit more than that. It's like giving yourself away entirely to an existing pressing power on you, which is just not going to allow you to do your own thing, as you might say. And that's Kabbalah's. That's the deen from Kabbalah cell. So it's brought down and considers that there are two Kabbalah cells also. There's a Kabbalah cell of the whole year, and then there's a Kabbalah cell how it is on Rosh Hashanah. And the Kabbalah cell on Rosh Hashanah is Pnimius v'Atzmius in Kabbalah cell Kufa, which means that the man just completely and utterly gives himself away. How do you call it? He throws himself away completely to the Eibush. He just decides that he has no Matthias or Inyan La'atzmi Klal Uklal. Now that is Heipach HaTeva Sheba Heipach HaTeva. And that's a Heipach. Therefore, somebody once said to me, what's with you guys? It's your new year. Be happy. So the Friedrich Rebbe says we are happy. The simcha of Kabbalah Samelech is a tremendous simcha. Well, it's a simcha that comes that the subjects give themselves absolutely away to the king. He said other people sit around and make very good beer parties. So I have $1 billion on Rosh Hashanah on their new year. And you guys have to tell you they can feel it. I live that. That's the difference from Ayid B'Zakoi. That Ayid knows that the whole Inyan of Rosh Hashanah, the cup of the whole year is Kabbalah Sel Malchus Shamayim. What we should do is Heipach HaMatzias, Heipach Teva HaOdam Be'etzem Atzmoseh. Now the Teva from the man says, das ist der Teva Atzmi von einem Mensch. Like the Gemara says, an Avda b'Hafkeira Nichalei. Almost a slave, he would like to just take it easy and have his way. What's he going to do? That Heipach HaTeva, that giving yourself away altogether, that's the secret and the pnimiyat of Rosh Hashanah. Well, this is Mamshi, the Kaviyachal, the Eibush also gives himself away. The Eibush also is Megala, the whole pnimiyat in what you don't see. All you see is the Ha'ora, all you see is the Yesh and the Velt, and Halavai that you would see even the Ha'ora Da'ora, Halavai that you would have Eizish Gilui or Hasoga in the Ha'ora Da'ora. Kommt again the Eibush when he sees that you give yourself away with your Kabbalah cell Pnimius v'Atzmius on Rosh Hashanah, then he gives a Kaviochel, his Kabbalah cell, the Eibush the Kaviochel, gives away there the whole inner of his Atzmius, he gives it down Lamate. That's the secret of those few words. Alidei the Kabbalah cell of Rosh Hashanah Pnimius Halei. Oh, that's how we mamshik the whole union of that Reisha, the Loyes Yadam, and the whole Pnimis V'Atzma say that should be Begillah, Mata, and then it brings down the union from, we want Moshiach now. That brings down the Gillah, all Inyanim, how they really meant to be, Lamata Mata, Bezeh Ha'olam Kipshutah. So he says that that's the inyan from here, Gilui Amalchus Lamata, V'hu inyan Gilui P'nimis Pnimius Hamalucha. Well, that's the Gilui of the Pnimius of Malchus. What the Pnimius of Malchus is, like we said, the Pnimius V'Atzmas Ein Tzeit. Shelo Yeh P'nimis Helam V'Hester. There shouldn't be any more Shenim Shach Rak B'chidus Ha'ora Levad Kanal. In other words, that the world should live begorry from what it's really coming from. Because that the really, it shares, as we pointed out, is in the Etzem of the Melech. And that's going to be begorry lamata. That's what the Eibush wanted. That not just you should have the ha'ora, but in place of the ha'ora should be there. The shoyrosh of everything, mamish the atzma, and that's the unbelievable pillar, and that's the kol yochel, the whole inyan. That normally, if the ha'ora were to be b'mokim agila of atzmas, it would be just butter, and it would be niklal in the atzma, the whole bria wouldn't exist. mitzad seder of the Ha'or. And that's the kilo of the Maila Me'ateva of the whole Indian of Rosh Hashanah, that there should be nimshut, the atzmus lamata, and nonetheless the yesh will still continue to be. We said that if the atzmus were to be going in the yesh, then there wouldn't be any yesh. On the whole Indian of Rosh Hashanah is no, that it should stay a yesh, and afal be the kilo of the atzmus and the shorosh amalchus in the yesh, and he'll remain a yesh. And that's the inyan from the Gila de Liosid, that the Koyach HaAtzmus is going to be tafke in the Yesh HaGashmi. It's an unbelievable derher. He said, Ki'im yeh Gila Pnimis HaMalchus, V'oisa onu mevakshim betfilah the Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe said, that's what we're asking for on the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah. We're asking only for the Gilead, the Pnimis V'atmis HaMalchus Lamata. K'moisha imrim maleik al ha'olam kulei bichvaid de'cha. He said, you should rule over the world in your kaved. Kaved, stam kaved, hubrinas kaved malchus. Kaved stam means the kaved of malchus. Yeah, and the kaved of malchus, kaved is only a ha'ora. So the kaved of malchus is the seder of the giluyim, ha'ora, and then ha'ora da'ora, and then he said, that's kaved. He said, ukvay de'cha, aber your kaved, hubrinas ha-malchus, k'moishu hubiat, Musa, that's the killer of Malchus Atzmas, Mamish B'toich HaAtzmas, and that's what we say, Maloich al kol ha'elam kulei bich v'decha. In other words, we want the meaning for Mela to be Mamish B'golui, K'moi shehu mitzad ha'mitiyas ha'atzmas. And it's an almost impossible thing to ask. And yet, nonetheless, that's what we do. But Prati years, the Rebbe, Yesh Gimel B'china. Now here we get into 3 levels. Well, we'll have to deal with these in the coming shir. But just very briefly, Beprati is Yesh Gimel Madreges. There's what's called Lavush Geus, Ukfeid Malchus, V'Reima Mesamalchus. 3 inyanim. Literally the garment of Geus, of elevated pride. Literally Geus is like the idea of splendor and pride. Kfeid Malchus, the kaved of Malchus, and Reima Mesamalchus, the ultimate exaltation and elevation of the Inyan HaMalchus. In other words, the whole Inyan of Malchus is Keser, Malchus, Keser. But in that Gufa, there are different beginners. Ve'en beginners Keser, Chokma, Bina, Sheba Keser. In other words, even in Keser we have his colorless of Madregas, Afilu B'toich HaKeser. In other words, you have Keser Sheba Keser, we have Chokma Sheba Keser, and we have Bina Sheba Keser. Keser, Chokma, Bina Sheba Keser. The Levush Geus, Ubrinas Shem Sag, Sheba Bina Sheba Keser. The Inyan HaGeus, the Inyan of pride, or how do you call it, pomp, Ubrinas Shem Sag, K'moish Koser B'mokimacha. K'feid Malchus Ubrinas Shem Ab, the Chokma Sheba Keser, V'Reima Mesamalchus B'chinas Keser Sheba Keser. That's the Inyan of Keser, how it is in Keser. Okay, Inyan Roma Karni B'Havai. That's a pasuk in the Shira of Chanoah that we say in the Haftorah of the first day of Rosh Hashanah. But right at the end she says a Shira Chanoah, and it's written over there, Roma Karni B'chinas Keren Chulu. So we'll deal with that a Milchim in the coming Shir. Well, those inyan, what's the Inyan from Shem Sag, and what's the Inyan from Shem Ab, and what's the Inyan of Keren. But the Rebbe said that Inyan from Reima Mesamalchus is the Inyan from Keren. Well, a Keren means literally a corner, like where two sides meet together at a point. That's called a Keren. I would say the Keren Zovi is like a corner. The 2 walls apart, that's called the Keren Zovi. Or it can also mean wherever 2 points meet together, that point is called the Keren. So come to Lafiseh. The Rebbe says Lafiseh come to that Kvay Dercha is Inyan from Shem Ab, or that's Inyan from Chokma Sheba Keser. Karni, we're going to see, is the Inyan of how do you call it? Pnimis V'atmius HaKeser Keser Sheba Keser. And we'll see about that as we go along further in coming and developing.